I'm Randy Pitchford. I made a good game, but I'm also kind of a shitty person. Fuck you guys for liking for not liking Epic Store. Steam's garbage. They steal money from developers.
Okay.
Welcome to the Unstoppable Force podcast. I'm Guy,
And I'm Rob.
and today we're going to be talking about Borderlands 3.
And what we know and what we've seen from the recent live stream and other leaks that we've seen from the characters.
There's been a lot of news. They keep feeding it out to us. Kind of almost feels like they're like slowly spoon feeding information, like slowly. They're trying to keep the hype train going all the way to release, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So we're probably going to continue to get even more information, but there's a lot out there, so I think there's enough for us to talk about.
Definitely do a whole recap on what we know and what's might to be coming.
I mean, there's just so many new features to this game.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's almost like you took a Borderlands 2 and you just turned it like up to 11, because like every single thing you could have criticized Borderlands 2 about now has some new feature or some new upgrade that makes it that much more interesting.
They tweaked it for the fans that had these problems before, and they want to see new things or changes that kind of were clunky features before, that they kind of streamlined them, get them better.
I think like one major like design philosophy of Borderlands 3 wasn't like to add content like in the form of like just numbers and big values and like things like that. It was more like taking what we already loved and each aspect of what we already loved and just improving upon it.
Oh yeah.
Rather than being like 10 new planets, like 3 different spaceships. It's like, I mean, it's like fun, but if the actual gameplay and the gunplay and the bosses and things like that aren't more interesting,
right? Or if they're so different that they're not what we liked before, then it's not really the game that we want.
Mm-hmm. So it's like really interesting, all the changes that they made, and the more we find out, the more hyped I think everyone's getting.
So should we get into the playable characters at least to start off with?
Sure.
So first up is the classic Siren. We have Amara the Siren, and so it looks like each of the playable characters have, they have the 3 different skill trees, but this time each skill tree does a different action skill. So when you select it, you can change it based on what you want to do. And for Amara, the 3 different skill trees, we have Brawl, which is a phase slam, which is she jumps up and she comes down and she slams like an area of effect of enemies. And then we have Mystical Assault, which is a phase cast of herself that goes out and kind of walks, I think, through. And then
Does that like do damage as it walks through?
I think it's supposed to. I don't know if she's shooting or not, or if it's just like I wasn't really sure.
Or is it like Mirage's like like
maybe,
his
maybe
decoy almost?
I think phase cast actually isn't her. I think it's like might be like a Hadouken like of arms forward. I think now that I could watch some gameplay from this. Because then the third one is Fist of Elements, which is Phase Grasp, which a fist comes up from the ground, kind of like holds an enemy, kind of like Maya did in Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
And with Fist of Elements, that skill tree has a lot more elemental skills and upgrades on that. And each of these trees have an augment, so there's an unlock that's, instead of just adding something to your skill,
it almost
your action
like
skill,
changes that ultimate power. Like beforehand, you could get like some upgrades or like some changes to how not how it worked specifically, but like the damages on it, or like
elemental damage possibly,
or like it'll go between more enemies, like Mordecai's bird will like hit more enemies before it comes back, or like some sort of buff to it, but it never changed it fundamentally how it worked or how the actual player would use it in a fight, like how it's effective in a fight.
Yeah.
So they definitely kind of upgraded that, and that's like for all 4 characters that they've added these augments.
Right, and I think they're actually, you can pick and choose, so there's different slots, so you can unlock the augment as you go down the tree and then swap out your actions. your action skill. So if whatever the fight calls for, you can change up the augment that you need to
So it's
use.
like free that you can change it, or is it going to be like one of those types of situations where you can almost like at any point change how your skill trees are distributed, or is it like you have to pay something to redistribute it, or is it like almost pseudo locked where like some of it's locked but then other stuff isn't locked like the augments or something like
I
that?
think it's locked, and then as you would unlock it as if you use a skill point on it.
Hmm.
I think, and then you have access to put that in your augment slot. And then once you have the next one unlocked, you can pop that one out and swap it in. But I think you have free access once you use an action point on it
Okay, so if I
or
wanted to
skill point.
switch between um phase cast and phase grasp, I would have to have both unlocked already.
Right.
I have to spend 2 skill points instead of one, and then
Yeah,
swapping out where that 1 point goes.
yeah, I believe so.
Something interesting on the point of these characters being uh, significantly more customizable in the way that they play on a gameplay level comparatively to previous games. I've actually heard that there's potentially not going to be new characters in DLC, whereas previously the first one didn't have it, but the last two games didn't. Oh, sorry. The
Did
first one didn't have it. The last two games did have
right.
new characters in DLC. Um, but they may actually just expand upon the customization of our original four characters rather than adding additional characters. But I'm still more in favor of additional characters because I just think it's cool when they add somebody new. Like the Necromancer was like one of the coolest characters in my opinion for Borderlands 2,
Yeah.
and that came out with DLC.
Yeah. I don't know or haven't heard that they're not gonna come out with new characters. But with this, even like the different action skills that you can use, like you and I can be the same character. We can both be
Right.
Amara, but then be basically fighting completely
Does the
differently.
game even allow you to do that though? I mean,
Yeah, I mean we've been able to do that in when we play co-op with Borderlands 2. We've
have we?
totally been able to be
It's kind of
yeah.
funny. I think even though we could do that in the previous games, there's like a feeling of like,
Yeah.
oh, if you're playing Lilith,
Yeah.
I don't want to play Lilith because we're both Lilith and that's
Yeah.
not fun.
It's like an unspoken type of
Yeah.
deal. I mean, just for fun, we were trying to. I was playing Borderlands 2, and we are trying to get one of our friends up to like the our level, and we were 0. So then all three of us just started over at 0 and just went in and just did the 3 different skill trees to just fight, and it's kind of weird, but it works. Especially now, it's gonna work even better with having different action skills to be able to pick from. It'll feel like a different character, like play style.
Yeah, plus they're expanding a little bit on character customization too. So I think they said they're adding like an emote and then like some music or something
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
could
they are.
pick.
And even your menu, the Echo,
Hmm.
it's gonna have a different color or something. Like you can have a theme on it, I think.
So maybe we'll see like even within the because even though there's still only costumes in the forms of like the body and the head, they may have expanded even further on that and made it so that like the costumes are not just
Yeah.
color changes,
Right.
but also like a little some of the model changes for like
Right.
the more rare ones that you can unlock.
Right. So
We should probably go on to Zane though.
yeah. So Zane the Operative, his 3 skills are Hitman, which is a sentinel. I guess that's his little like drone that kind of
Hmm.
goes out and like fights. And then undercover is he gets a barrier, and from what I've read and seen, it's kind of like it's a shield, but also I think depending on like different things you can do to it, it could increase damage if you shoot through it, kind of like they did. I think Bastion. I mean Baptiste. Overwatch
Baptiste.
just came out,
Yeah.
but you can do that, or like if a friendly touches it, they get heal or different type of things on his
There's almost like
barrier.
augments to the augments.
Yeah, yeah. And then doubled agent is a digiclone. And this is really cool. So it's a clone of Zane, and you can put it out there. You can teleport and actually swap places. So if you want to distract the enemy or you're about to take a ton of damage, you put it out, teleport over there. So then you can flank him, like instantly flank the enemy, and just do that. And you can swap back and forth.
So I've almost like it's kind of like there's a bit of a pattern where like each character based on their augment either is like it's an offensive augment a defensive augment
Like
or
skill.
more of like a utility augment.
Yeah.
So like in this case, the drone is offensive, the shield would be more defensive, and then the agent, the digiclone, is almost like being able to reposition and move around and distract, which is more like
Right.
utility.
Well, I from what we've seen, I don't at least from the first two that we have Amara and Zane. So far, Zane can have two action skills, so he can have two of these actions like basically equipped in a sense. So he can have his sentinel and his barrier, sentinel and his clone, but it removes his ability to throw a grenade. So it really gets like a it's kind of like a pros and cons, like how you gonna play, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I guess if you want like certain grenades, then you can't have like the additional skill.
Right.
But it's probably worth having that extra skill as well.
Yeah, especially if you're gonna do like a solo play, I'd probably say Zane would probably be your pick. Especially because you can just get away from enemies, like set up your like barrier or your sentinel, and then just if you need to get away quick, you just set up your clone and bye bye.
So what about Flack, the Beastmaster? That's
So
the guy that I personally actually thought was like the character that I'm already gonna play because I like to play like the Beastmasters, like having the dogs. I love having like a pet. It was always
yeah,
Mordecai when I played Borderlands 1.
we didn't get as in depth actually. So um,
He hasn't had much revealed for him,
no, no.
right?
So the only leaks were the two, were Amara and Zane. So for Flack the Beastmaster, all we know is that he gets a animal companion, and from like the trailer or other things that we've seen that aren't like leaks or gameplay, he gets probably because we have three different skill trees. He probably gets you can pick between three different beasts in a sense. They had the three up there. I think it was like the spider. I don't remember it. There's three different beasts that I don't recall
So it's
right
like
now.
there's the dog, there's the
Yeah, yeah,
oh my god, I'm like blanking. Was it like a scrag or something? Like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
skag, a
Skag.
skag.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So it's probably gonna be
And
like
then
that, and then like you said, like a spider,
hmm,
but I'm sure
I
like the
think
last one's got to be something
I
flying.
think yeah, it is. It's so from what
Be
we
like it probably wouldn't be another like bird of prey because it's too close to Mordecai. Maybe like something along the lines
so
of like a crow or like a bat or something that flies but not a bird of prey.
so from the I think it was a picture I think or screen cap we see a skag, a spider ant, and another creature that we don't know what it is yet that carries a gun.
Carries a gun. Interesting.
Yeah, it has a gun. He kind of has it's bipedal, kind of looks like a wolf.
Oh, okay. So it's not going to fly. It's going to be all three
So it looks like
grounded.
yeah, but like the spider ants usually are very mobile and they
Oh yeah.
hop around like crazy. So that's really good. And then we have Mose the gunner, which is
She's the one with the mech.
yeah, basically that's don't really know much else about her.
Hmm.
I think there's rumor that your teammates might be able to get into.
I think there's actually already footage.
Unless this is it.
Yeah, of
Okay.
like one of the teammates being in the turret seat of it as it
Yeah,
like
yeah,
ran.
yeah. That's probably one of like the augments. I mean, one of the three skill trees. It probably like does a different like probably mobility. Probably increases the
Uh
it's a
huh.
different type of like tanky, like really heavy gunner. Probably a lighter, more mobile
Yeah, it's
mech.
almost like different like attachments to the mech and like how to make it like is it gonna be more tanky mech?
Right.
Is it gonna be more like fast? Is it gonna be more aggressive and damage focused? But I think that's gonna be one of the cooler ones once they announce more about her.
Oh
That
yeah.
we're gonna see like some really cool differences in those augments because it seems like Amara is gonna be kind of the most, in my opinion, it just from a guessing perspective, boring in terms of her augments because it's like top shooting something from
Yeah.
above to the ground, shooting
Yeah.
something forward,
Grasp.
or just grasping from underneath. That doesn't change it up as much as like Zane, who's got completely three different abilities if it's like Overwatch or something. And then you've got the three complete different Beastmaster beasts. And then I'm sure that mech is going to dramatically change based on what you give it as well. So
Right. Well, I think just Zane kind of looks like the most versatile. Like, yeah, they have like different beasts or maybe different gunner like mechs, and Amara has a different like sort of angles you can use her. But she's like the Siren's always sort of been like the elemental kind of almost support type. like crowd control
Yeah, but like
type.
Lilith, I remember in the first one is considered to be the strongest of the four characters from like a balancing perspective,
Okay, yeah,
and like she would just immediately kill everybody. I think she was like a fire aura, right?
yeah,
It's been
yeah,
so long since I played.
yeah. It's been a while.
But apparently it just melts everybody.
Yeah,
If you watch like some gameplay, I think I recently watched like a speed run of it actually, and
nice.
everyone plays Lilith because you just walk around and everyone just dies around you. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
I think she's actually considered the most OP in any of the games of one of the main characters.
yeah. Even like non-playable.
Yeah. Um, some other really cool things we got. I mean, there's just no end to the cool stuff.
Yeah.
We've got new cars. We've got like there's the hover car,
Yep.
and then
There's like a cyclone. It's like a wheel you kind of sit in, and it has like a very high mobility.
yeah,
Kind of looks like the from like Men in Black kind of thing.
there's also some more like visual customizations on them as well, where you can pick like armor and like material
Yeah.
for the vehicles
Yeah.
on top of like the weapon and like the camo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're adding more in that realm as well. And I think like, I don't even I mean the new vehicles I would love to see how they're going to utilize the mechanics that are specific to those vehicles,
Right.
because I know in like the previous games there were certain areas that you couldn't actually cross without vehicles,
Yeah.
and there'd be like certain like ways that you had to drive in order to like be able to cross those paths.
Right. And
So
yeah, I guess you can like probably fit in somewhere like a more narrow space with with the cyclone.
yeah,
But then they'll like stop you. They'll like have a overhead thing that just blocks you from going forward. Like, I got to get out again and start walking to go this way. But yeah, there's probably way more of like utilization of those vehicles. Also, I've seen there's a lot more sort of vertical mapping where like you'd be in an area and then you have to like kind of climb up like ladders or go up and
uh-huh.
find like another like a cityscape that's underneath like a sewer. So like just a lot more vertical mapping that
Hmm.
they're doing than before, which
I
is
love it when these developers move towards more vertical style maps, because I've always found like it's almost like a way to retain the overall size of the map, but making it more detailed and layered. So you can go to an area and it's like you can actually like it's just more realistic feeling in that it's not just like a flat plane
yeah,
of crap. And
yeah.
that's what Borderlands has always felt like. Not that that's specifically a
Oh,
criticism,
mhm.
but I do think that everyone can agree in Borderlands there's always a lot of empty space between interesting areas.
Yeah. Well, I also want to hope. I hope they fix this in Borderlands 3. Is in Borderlands 2 you would drive to travel to somewhere else, to drive somewhere, to travel to another place. I hope
Hmm.
they're just able, like with the scale and technology, to just make it like just the area that you can just
Like just
keep
one big
going.
map without loading
Yeah, if it's
screens.
like a planet, because so another thing is there's different planets here.
Yeah.
So you can a lot. I guess the story would be like you go from different planet to planet, and it'd be really cool if you can kind of if they were able to do the scale where like when you go down on a planet, that's just the map, and they don't really have
Yeah.
to do anything. Obviously, if you go indoors, that's kind of a separate kind of deal, maybe.
Hmm.
But it's just like as far as being outside and having to travel, I hope you don't have to travel somewhere to
There
just
may be like
travel.
certain cities maybe you want to like instance into
Yeah,
and like load into because maybe there's a lot more NPCs. I would love to see them increase the number of NPCs in cities and villages and things like that, because it
yeah.
always felt like even when like a city was pretty populated or supposed to be populated, it actually really wasn't compared to like real life ones.
Well,
It's
that's
always fun when they do that.
they kind of the way they did it was there was nobody there, and until you went in, and then like you would have like guys coming out of like the little like doors and stuff. So they're kind of
Uh-huh.
spawning there. They're not pre-spawned when you're getting there. Like they're already there.
Yeah.
Right. Um.
On the
So
new planets, by the way, we don't actually know anything about the planets.
no.
We've only seen that one trailer where they kind of start cutting between different planets.
Right.
But obviously, Pandora's still going to be in this one. But we know nothing about these other planets, unless there's like some information. Maybe there's some lore from previous games that might tell us some nearby planets that might be part of that solar system where Pandora
Right.
is.
Maybe mentioning or something like that.
But that's gonna be really fun that we're gonna be thrown into these completely different areas, and it really, I think it opened up Gearbox's um, artistic freedom to try other new things than just this post-apocalyptic world. We might actually see something a little more beautiful.
Yeah, more like a modern city or something like that.
Or even like a planet that's
Cool.
actually mostly natural and is
Okay,
like kind of like
true.
more like there's
Green.
more water and there's green and there's less just apocalypticness, you know,
Yeah.
which has generally been the vein of the game up to this point. But there was a few areas in the previous games though that were more serene,
Yeah.
especially with like the vaults, like usually closer to the vaults where it was a little less
Yeah.
populated.
True. True. Well, a lot of like the more natural areas were like infested with like spider ants and all type of like creatures, so it kind of was like dangerous nature, and it
Yeah.
wasn't so beautiful.
Another big change that they made was like to loot, to the guns, and to how pretty much that whole part of the game works.
Right, with co-op, right, or just
Well,
in general.
in general, because like first off, almost all of our guns manufacturers have these totally new traits to them
Yeah.
that we've never had before. I mean, we Malawan now you can like shoot two different elements that you can swap between,
Right.
and if you like hold it down, you can actually like power up a single shot that will guarantee do elemental
Yeah.
damage. I mean, then you've got like Hyperion, which gives you like a shield when you're aiming down
Mhm.
sights, and then if you hold down, you get like a boost in accuracy if you like hold down
All right. Oh, that's like
the
if you're
trigger.
shooting, yeah, continuous fire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw some of the Hyperion from gameplay, and there's different types of shields. And it's really cool. So like they have some like have shield capacity, obviously. Sometimes they like regen your bullets, or sometimes the bullets bounce off to from the or getting shot at the shield. So it's a very there's different types of shields, not just like a shield on the
Uh huh.
gun. So
So I guess that's probably be part of the random generation of guns is
yeah,
that each of the manufacturers not only do they have these additional almost like select fires and like perks and abilities that each of these guns have, but also that there's going to have like another layer or several layers of additional uniqueness in the form of these specific buffs to the specific, like, you know, like if I find a
right,
gun level 50 or something that's like some crazy ultra rare gun, it might have like four different buffs on it for the
mm,
shields or something.
right,
It's kind of
right,
crazy.
yeah. So speaking of the guns, we could go through some of the more. So I guess we can go through all of them because
Yeah,
it kind of.
definitely.
So we have the Jacobs, which is the classic fire as fast as you can
Right.
pull the trigger, and those have a ricochet bullets on a critical hit to hit
So does
another
that mean like if
enemy.
you hit somebody and it crits, it'll just instantly shoot towards
Yeah,
somebody
it'll
else?
ricochet. That bullet will ricochet whatever that critical shot was. That'll ricochet at an enemy.
Okay, but it's like it's not random. Like
Mm,
it'll aim
I
for another
I
person.
believe it will aim for somebody. I'm
Okay,
not 100% sure on that.
it's got
Maybe
to
it's
though,
like
because it would
a
suck if it didn't.
right. Well, unless there's like a lot of enemies. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is though, Jacobs were always they've always been designed the guns around this idea where it's like you don't have a ton of ammo,
Right.
but
Hype.
each shot does a lot of damage, and
Yeah.
you can shoot it as fast as you can pull the trigger. So
Right.
like if you pull out like a like a revolver and you shoot 6 shots, you
Yeah.
should be able to like kill like 10, 15 people. Now with the ricochet, that's only if it's like actually aiming for other people. But I
Yeah.
think that's a fun way for it to work because it's almost like you just shoot
Yeah.
like 3 people and it's like do 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 do
Yeah.
do and it like kills everybody in the room. It'd be kind of
And
cool.
and it's good because it kind of stays within the like. Oh, you don't have that many shots. You watch your placements. Now,
Uh huh.
really makes you watch your placement to get like.
Because
If
if
you
you
get
get headshots, you also
headshots,
get crits.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you're like gonna want to place those shots really well.
And then there's the Atlas, which is was
This
Atlas in the previous game? Is new.
it's new, so it's kind of like what people are saying. I think it's the fifth element gun. Basically, there's tracker tag bullets. So the one firing mode is you shoot at an enemy and it pins them. So then you can go behind cover and shoot in a random direction up in the air, and the bullets will auto aim and they will just go to the enemy and just hit it.
Right.
So if you have like a big enemy that you're trying to just stay away and like this you need heals, like you need to heal up a bit or you need to get in cover, that's a good way to just hit them and then run and do damage while you need to hide.
Yeah, I think to some people they might find that OP because, tracking guns always seems very
Mm.
overpowered in games. But this is more of like a loot shooter, and I think in that sense, it's going to be kind of a trade-off where it's like you may not miss any bullets, but your overall DPS is going to
Mm.
be significantly lower for that reason because you
Right.
can, play safe and be around a corner, whereas like the other guns, you're going to have to put yourself in danger.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that the damage output on those
Mhm.
guns is going to be significantly less than the other types.
Yeah, and like when you have more than one of these guns, a lot like there's usually a specific reason that you keep it in your inventory, and that's kind of one of the ones where like, oh crap, I need to go run away, and you pull that out and you just do that, and then you're able to stay safe, and then you can get that damage and hide, and then reload your like primary, let's say if it's not your primary, and then go back in and be able to do that.
Hmm.
So then there's Tedior, and these were always like
Explosive ones,
yeah,
right?
yeah, explosive. So it's just like explosive ammo.
It
Eh,
now is like sticky though, because you can like swap between the normal and the sticky.
Yeah, yeah,
And then with Doll, there's like more alternate firing modes because Doll was always more like traditional modern weapons.
yeah,
So now I think it's gonna like work more like a traditional modern weapon where you can go like single fire, triple fire,
yeah,
auto fire.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
stuff like that.
I'm sure that we're gonna see more come out about those though, because they're definitely gonna need some additional layer of interestingness comparatively to like these other guns that are
I'm
having some crazy
I
stuff
don't know
happen
that
doing them.
I've been able to like watch gameplay, and if you just watch because they did the live stream, then streamers were able to go play. So there's a lot of gameplay out there. If you just go and pause, and you can just look at the different variations on these the gun manufacturers, you'll just be like, okay, like that one's simple. Like there's a sniper that was one shot or three shots, or like you see like the multiple elements when it's like fire or ice, fire or frost,
Yeah, and then there's like the Vladov or Vladov, whatever, however you
Yeah.
say it. And that has like these attachments now. So it's like underbarrel attachments
Yeah.
that can do like a ton of different cool things.
Yeah. So you can have like a sniper and at the same time like grenade launcher. So you like or like something really close. Like if you
Uh-huh.
want like your sniper, but then you're like, oh, I don't have anything really close. If the enemies get there, maybe you have like a shotgun or something like that.
And then oh wait a minute. Isn't Torg the Torg is the sticky explosive ones. What was
Right.
TDR
Okay. So
again? TDR is
Tedior.
the throwing one,
Right.
isn't it?
That's what I was about. I think I was
That's
gonna
it,
say.
yeah.
So Tedior is what they call pursuit guns, where basically you throw them like a grenade to reload, and then it digi structs in your hand. And I think they introduced a new one that walks, that has legs on it.
Yeah.
Saw that. So those are we've seen those before. Just they added some more like variation,
Yeah, so like
basically.
now I guess when you reload and you throw your gun out, instead of it just like exploding and
Mhm.
kind of being lame, it's like gonna have a bunch of different like
Yeah.
possible effects that
Yeah.
when you throw it out, like it'll grow legs and start
Yeah.
running around and shooting you as a companion
Right.
or things like that.
Yeah.
And then the last one is that the bandit group got completely thrown out and it's now been replaced with the Children of the Vault guns. And that's actually based off of the new bad group, which is going to be led by the Calypso twins.
Yep.
So I've seen some pictures of those, and they seem like we don't really know anything about those. I don't believe.
Well, we got a little more. So it's the Children of the Vault guns that have infinite ammo, so they'll overheat or have a chance of breaking.
Uh huh.
Uh, and like it just uses up your whole ammo stock. And I saw some variations where like to kind of almost nerf them or like kind of make them sort of balance. They'll put like, oh, it's 3 shots. It consumes 3 ammo per shot. Or like the amount of time that it takes to overheat is very
Yeah.
short, and they kind of go very with that. I guess we saw like a video. I think when they were doing the live stream, they were using Children of the Vault, and then they like pulled out like a ice like a freezer thing, and they sprayed the gun to cool it down.
Okay. Is that
Something
like
cool like that.
an
That's probably
item or like an item that you
I
can
don't know. I
consume or
just it
something?
just looks like it's probably like hold to cool down or something like that. So it's something you have
Okay.
to wait, but then like you can do that at some point.
Uh-huh.
I don't know for sure. That was just a little like clip I saw.
Um, to kind of go into the Children of the Vault, though, our new baddies are the Calypso twins, Tyrene and Troy.
Yeah.
So I've heard some interesting things about them. there's like some theories that they're actually stealing powers of sirens.
Yeah, there's a dude that she's a siren,
She's a
possibly,
siren.
possibly. That she's a siren,
Oh,
and
maybe
that they
she's
were
like a
stealing.
siren with the ability to steal sirens'
Yeah, yeah,
powers.
and then I think from that he had some tattoo that
Uh-huh.
possibly she gives him powers. That's
Yeah.
might be a rumor.
Well, there's like the flasks, like the vials that they're
Yeah,
carrying, and
yeah,
I think people think that those are going to be the ones that like fill like the
the
powers
power.
filling them.
Okay. Yeah.
Another cool thing about them too is that they're actually based off of, funnily enough, streamers and like influencers.
Right, right. And that's really interesting because they kind of question like, oh, if you have this much power, like you tell people what to do. Like now they just wanted it. They started off with doing that. Now they're like, oh, do this, or do our bidding. Kind of
Uh-huh.
do whatever he wants, and then they kind of sort of create a cult around that. We saw a little clip in the gameplay, um, of them like, oh, like remember to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Like it was so funny. But I don't know. I think it might get old quick because it's like it's cool like up front, but if like that was like the one-off joke where they're like, oh, subscribe to us or whatever, that's okay. Like they can do that and maybe they have a little personality like that. But
Uh-huh.
if they like really hammer on that a lot, it's probably gonna get old. And like sure, their backstory can be like influencers and like have some like lore along the way. But if it's just like constant like berating of that.
Yeah, I think it can get annoying because we already like live with it so much and we're exposed to it so much.
Yeah.
There's always a risk in that while being something relatable, if it's like almost too relatable, it's like just in your face. And it's like, I've seen this a million times. I get it, guys. It's funny when you say like, comment, subscribe. Let's move on to another joke. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because Gearbox has always been very good at its writing.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I kind of that's what I was thinking. I was like, they'll probably just use that as like a one-off, like introduction, sort of like the thing for that, and that's funny, and just the hot tidbits within it, definitely, and you can tell with like the younger being like the younger like kind of twins like then like we're getting like Handsome Jack. He's kind of a veteran of like company or something.
uh-huh.
Like he works his way up. These kids are just like, oh, this is like the
They're more
players.
annoying
Yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Yeah, I think if they like know that they're annoying and they play it well, then it'll be good. But I think it's gonna be something that we'll see
Yeah,
as the story progresses. But I think it's gonna start off being very meta and very like in your face about things, but hopefully it'll get more serious as the story goes by,
right.
and we get to know more about their past and their motivations and who they are. Hopefully they go into that quite a bit. There's also a lot of like just new gameplay in general features, things that
Yeah,
we haven't seen before. We've got like the barrels, which used to be stationary,
yeah,
and now you can actually like throw them at enemies or
yeah.
like knock them into
Right, and they
enemies.
won't explode or hurt you until
Uh-huh.
you shoot them.
There's also a totally new element called radiation,
Yeah,
and that is like I guess it's like you shoot somebody and they get irradiated, and then they
it's
emanate the radiation around them, just like
yeah,
real radiation
yeah, and it can
works.
like chain onto the
Uh-huh.
enemies.
So it's almost like it's like a virus almost, where it's
Yeah,
like somebody catches the virus and then it kind of spreads to each person near them, and then
yeah.
as they get it, then they spread to each person near them. So I think if you get like radiation weapons and you really crunch people together, it would probably be the
Oh
most
yeah,
overpowered
yeah.
new element. As long as people are in that like
Mm.
very tight
Oh
spacing.
yeah. Well, if you have like phase grasp, right, and you like it, if there's an augment or where like it pulls enemies all in
Uh-huh.
together when like hits one enemy, like there, that's it. You just hit that one person that you just phase grasp with this radiation. You're just gonna get the whole cluster of
Yeah.
enemies.
We're gonna see like probably some really cool new combinations of things that we didn't see before
Yeah,
because of all the new augments and all the new characters and all the new
guns.
guns and their abilities.
Yeah,
So I think there's gonna be a lot of uniqueness that didn't exist before, and like play strategies. And everyone's gonna be playing around with what's good and what's bad and
yeah,
like what works well.
yeah,
Another thing in terms of gameplay and like how the game moves and feels is that you can now actually slide and vault.
yeah. Thank God, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, Borderlands always felt a little clunky in that sense.
Yeah, there's
So,
always that one like ledge you kind of want to get up on, and
uh-huh.
you're like, should be able to get up on here. Why can't I get up on here?
Plus, it's like so common in video games
Yeah.
nowadays. It's kind of hard to make a game and not include those sorts of features because it's so standard
Yeah. Especially in first person
in
shooter.
shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really any shooters that are first person that don't include vaulting anymore.
Exactly.
And then they also actually added the destroyable cover.
Yeah. So I saw some. There's one person that was playing from like the gameplay, and he was saying that there's this destroyable cover, and then like he tried to use was it I think it's phase cast, and there would be some like sometimes it would go through the cover, sometimes it wouldn't, sometimes it would go like over if you like just barely aimed it, and it kind of goes with the like destructible cover, because if you can do that with guns, you can do that with abilities, the
Right.
phase cast and other things.
Um, we also have the new ship.
Yeah, Sanctuary is now on a ship.
Yep. So Sanctuary 3 is like your own ship with like it's like almost I guess like a floating city basically, like a
Yeah.
space city.
Yeah, it's basically, and they have all like the stores that we're used
Hmm.
to. Moxie's bar, of course.
Right.
There's actually Hammerlocks on the ship as well, and his thing is he gives you quests to go find like animals or beasts.
It's like collectibles.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like a game, like a room where like they'll hang up the heads of all animals from the
Like
quest.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
And then you even get your own room apparently, like
yeah,
a little room for your own sort of I guess like maybe they'll put like some collectibles in there for your characters
right.
individually. We don't actually know exactly
Hmm.
what's going into that room, but we
Okay,
do know that you get your own personal space, like your own actual own room.
that's cool. Another thing they added that is gonna be good for a lot of frustrated players is they have a lost and found on the ship. The loot that gets lost while you're
Oh my
out,
god.
it appears there when you get back to Sanctuary.
Does that mean like you can pick it up to sell it? So essentially, you anything that you kill anybody and like anytime you kill anybody and something drops, eventually
I
you'll be able to sell it.
I don't know about that. From like at least from Borderlands 2, if like you dropped a gun, like you want to pick one up and you swap the other one, and like oh shit, like you can carry the other one, or like you
Uh-huh.
dropped it and then it disappears through the ground. You're like, what the hell? I didn't have time to put it back on. You didn't mean to drop it, or like
Maybe it'll only like bring like the best of the guns
yeah.
that you dropped, and it wouldn't like obviously bring it all the white crap and like all the stuff that's not very good.
Maybe the guns from the enemies. So like whenever there's an enemy that has a gun, usually when you kill them, you can use that gun that they were
Yeah.
using. So it could be stuff like that, where it's specifically the gun that like of all the guns of the enemies that you just killed while you're out, and
Uh-huh.
they appear there. I don't know the specifics.
Um, on looting though, in the gun boss or in all the gun drops, we're also gonna have instanced looting.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's going to be an option too because there's a lot of I think there's going to be some people who are going to prefer that previous kind of more classic style of Borderlands where you're trading and competing with loot between your friends. But I definitely, for me personally, I prefer instance looting because there's no stress.
Yeah.
You just get what you get and you don't get upset because you got your percentage or you got whatever, when you kill a boss and a bunch of loot drops. It's not a question of your friend taking the best of it, but rather at least it's some other force of RNG that fucked you rather than your friend doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which to me I prefer better.
Yeah. No matter how good you are with of your of friends you are, there's always like you look at the item and then your friend just comes up and goes, "Oh, I'll take that," and they walk away and you're like,
Hmm.
I kind of wanted that."
No more awkward fights where you
Yeah.
have to like promise some like normal IRL favor for an in-game gun or some shit.
Yeah. Well, in addition to loot, it's not just loot; it's also level instancing. So,
Yeah.
when if you level up and then you and your friends are playing, you're leveling up together, playing the game. But then, let's say like you have to get off and they keep playing. When you guys get back together, being different levels isn't a problem anymore, even if there's a drastic difference. So if you're like level 5 and they're level 25, all of the enemies that they see in the game, if they like join your game, they look to level 25 to them while they're level
Mm-hmm.
5 to you. They do the same damage. Like the ratio kind of comes down to where your level is at as far as damage on the enemy, and you kind of play like that. So it's not like they're just coming and like level boosting you, or if you were to join them, you're not gonna feel like, oh, you can't play against these um
Mm-hmm.
enemies that you're fighting and you just keep dying. That's a big thing that happened in Borderlands 2. If
Yeah.
you lose out by like 10 levels or something, you're screwed with your friends.
So my biggest question about the whole instance looting is that if, let's say, we start a game, me and my friends were doing instance looting, and we play, and like let's say in your case, like you go and you get busy one day, and I don't play with you, we do get ahead of you. You come back and you play with us, and you're down in levels, but even though you're okay with being down in levels because essentially everyone you kill is a lower level, it's still you still want to catch up with us.
Right.
So, is there like can we swap like on the fly between instance and non-instance? Or is it going to be something that might be like tied to your character specifically? Because I know another thing as well is that theoretically you should actually get more loot by doing instance versus classic.
Right.
Because let's say you kill a boss and the boss drops 5 guns. In classic, you have to split those 5 guns amongst you and your friends. But in the instance version, it means that you would actually get 20 guns,
Yeah.
and each of you would get 5 guns.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a much higher chance that you'll get a gun that is good for you. So the question is like, are they going to reduce loot for instanced gamers, like people who want to play the game with instanced loot, or is it just going to be like tied to characters and you can't swap between them, or is it just going to be free and you can just on the fly switch? Definitely something I want to see happen.
Yeah. 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 We got to definitely see more of that, how that works. Because if you could just be like instancing your own levels, and then like, oh, and then then you can, if you want to level boost your friend, then you would just change the classic with that character and then go in and level boost them, even though before you're playing with instancing. If like
Right.
that might, I mean, I think that would be what people want. I think that's kind of what players would want, would to be able to swap between instancing and classic, because like, so now, like, if you're one person's 25 and the other person's 5, you're playing the same time, like, do the levels go up faster for the person that's level 5 because they're fighting, and the level 25 person goes nowhere? Otherwise, if it's the same amount of XP,
You guys would
and then
always still be that far apart
yeah,
in
so
levels. It wouldn't
and
change even if you kept playing.
right.
So,
So at that point, it's like about the game and the story and the side quests.
mm,
Because before, if like I'm off a few levels, then it's like, oh, we're gonna play, and then we'll go back in and like be able to go like through a whole nother playthrough, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, you're gonna be so far ahead of me that it doesn't matter because you've already played all these stories like twice over.
yeah. Um, Even beyond that, beyond just the game itself, there's some interesting new features as well. There's the Echo Cast for Twitch streamers,
Yeah.
and I didn't actually watch the live stream, so I didn't get to see it firsthand. But it seems like you would be able to almost like look at a streamer's current loadout
Correct.
as they're playing.
Yeah.
And then they're on the same time, like as they play, when they get loot, you actually have the ability to get loot with them, and then it'll send it to your game.
Yeah, like your shift account. There's like certain boxes that they can open that there's like a 25% of the chat or something like that gets a gun in that box. And I was watching someone talk about this, and they were saying how like for streamers that's like a low percentage, so people might like stream hop, so
Yeah,
like they try to get the guns instead of like guaranteeing a gun out of the box would keep people in to watch more, because like, oh, I know I'm gonna get something if I stay here,
it's
and it gives
definitely also going to
incentive.
artificially boost some of the streaming view numbers for the game. Maybe like as you just said, like if I have 5 streams open and they're
Yeah.
all Borderlands streams, that's technically all
Yeah.
5 of those people get my view.
Yeah.
So
And
it will artificially boost streaming
on
views.
top of that, it's gonna get more people to like gamers to stream Borderlands because they know that there's incentive for people to watch them play
Uh-huh.
that. So there's not only gonna be more people watching Borderlands, there should be more people incentivized to play it as well, to stream
Yeah,
Borderlands as
because
well.
they'll get more of an audience.
Yeah,
Because, like you said, like I could even go. Weirdly enough, actually, I could go all the way down to the bottom of the list where everyone's only got like 5 viewers, 3 viewers, and I'm gonna technically get just as much loot watching that stream as I would watching a stream with like 50,000 people in it because that both streamers are opening up roughly the same number of boxes.
right.
Um, some other cool things as well. We have the reviving on
NPCs,
NPCs,
yeah.
which never existed before.
No, and it makes sense and kind of, I guess, just another thing that they tweaked to help. And if you're like stuck in a situation, but it also seemed like every time that the Borderlands gave us an NPC to fight with alongside, that fight was going to be harder anyway. So now I don't know if that means they ramp them up even more, or if they keep them the same because they realized it's already a harder fight. So now let's give you like somebody that can revive you because we're gonna make it so hard.
I mean, I almost like that though. I
Yeah,
like because it feels more like war, where it's like you have more people, everyone's stronger on your side, but then at the same time, the enemy's stronger, and it creates like for an epic, sick battle
yeah,
or like a really crazy boss fight.
oh yeah,
And there's also gonna be like more bosses in this game. There's gonna be
or
cooler bosses
yeah,
because apparently this is the first Borderlands game that actually has a boss specific designer. So
yeah,
like a person with a job where their entire job is making bosses.
yeah.
So hopefully we're gonna get some really
Yeah.
cool
I
bosses.
think the loot's also supposed to be a lot better from each of the bosses. I think they kind of ramped it up like a little, like a notch, to give you more or better guns when every time you kill the boss.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny, but Borderlands kicked off loot shooters quite a bit, and then all these like MMO light loot shooters have come out since, and I think Borderlands benefited from those games playing around with ideas that they hadn't played around with, and maybe they can like kind of pick and choose what worked better for
Yeah.
bosses and loot distribution for killing enemies and things like that. Um, but
I,
even outside the game itself, we're getting cool things like there's no gonna be
yeah.
no microtransactions
Yeah.
according to uh,
Randy.
Randy Pitchford.
Yeah.
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 Um, and then it's not a game as a service.
Yeah.
No.
Like in-game currency to buy things with. You purchasing currency in game.
Yeah, they didn't make it a battle royale
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really funny because a little situation happened on Twitter that I saw between Randy and Game Informer, where Game Informer they published an article and they tweeted out that it says, despite Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford's comment about no microtransactions in Borderlands 3 during today's live stream, we've been told cosmetic items are still purchasable. So then Randy replies and kind of aggressively and says, come on guys, shitty clickbait headline. Literally seconds before I said that, I made it very clear we're going to do more cosmetic stuff like we did in Borderlands 2. I was talking about premium currency and loot boxes kind of stuff not being in our game. And then he replied to himself, replying to them, said, why you guys would fuck me on this is beyond me. Thanks a lot. And
What?
yeah, it kind of went off. And it's kind of understandable because
Randy's he's got a short temper right now.
yeah. Well, the thing is, in this whole sphere of games that are going battle royale, that are going free to games as a service, and to give us Borderlands, true to the players that just more of what we wanted and just made it better, to like kind of like tell everybody that's a lie is absolute bullshit. It's
Right.
like that's not true. This kind of I think also feeds into the controversy that we have Borderlands only going to the Epic launcher, like exclusively for the first 6 months. So I think it's kind of stoking that more. It's giving ammunition to those that are mad enough about that they can just go on top of this. Oh, you still have to buy stuff. Meanwhile, even in Borderlands 2, we had to buy skins and DLC.
I mean, in DLC, if it's like part of the package, then that's not microtransactions. If the whole DLC costs $20, $20 is not a microtransaction. I guess you can sort of argue that there are games where a single skin is $20, but for the most part, that's generally been considered 20, 30, or $40 have generally been considered DLC packages.
Yeah.
And if you're not just buying like one skin, but instead you're getting storyline, you're getting new features, you're getting new weapons, and also within there's some skins. It's not the same thing as saying like one skin costs $20.
Right.
But I will say, as much as I'm excited for Borderlands itself, Randy Pitchford is like a child to me. Like, he can't take criticism on certain things, like the Epic Store, and like even Game Informer. We could say it's a mistake. Or you could say it's a clickbait. You could say what you want. But it's definitely we definitely live in an era of what's the word for it when you glorify or you make something bigger in the forms of like articles and news. It's
Oh.
like when you put something like really sensationalized.
Yeah,
It's sensationalized. And YouTubers with their clickbait titles, and everyone's using clickbait nowadays. He's just so upset with everybody that criticizes him, even if they have like good points.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the biggest criticisms of this game, like you already mentioned it, is the Epic launcher.
Yeah.
And there's like good and bad to it. I think a lot of people only look at it as bad because it is objective to say that the Epic launcher is not just behind Steam.
Yeah.
It is years behind Steam. It is like literally only got 5%, 3% of the features that Steam is providing its users. So when you've got like this company Epic saying, "Oh, we're going to start buying all these exclusive titles and force you to use this terrible launcher with no features because we don't actually want to spend money making our platform better, but instead we want to spend money forcing you to use our crappy platform and hate us even more for making you use that crappy platform." Like that's like the downside, the negative side to it.
Right.
But then the positive side is like the whole, I think, and it's the reason why Epic is like not trying to do much other than this one thing, and it's kind of part of why all these developers are willing to work with Epic despite the differences, and that's the 88-12% split.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of developers have been defending the Epic launcher because they like the fact that they get more money.
Right.
Because everyone likes when they get more money.
Yeah. The deal is better on the developer side than it is like going to Steam, right? Because what is Steam's
Steam's
split?
is 70-30.
Wow.
But I think if you sell over, I think 1 million copies, it drops to 80-20.
Okay. Wow.
But it kind of screws over indie games, which need the money more.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm very much against Steam's split, and I think that they need to be more competitive with their split so that they can bring in more of those developers that they're starting to lose.
Yeah, like this if it's not a wake up call, it should be at least to Steam to change that percentage, because they're gonna lose out on the really really big games when it's like this.
And eventually Epic, I do honestly think eventually Epic will catch up to Steam on their features.
At some point, I mean, they have a while. I know like they have like great like forum community for like every game. Like anytime I go online,
yeah,
and
Steam's
I'm looking,
community is crazy.
Yeah, every time I go online, just on like Google, and to find a issue that I have with a game, I end up on a Steam forum through Google anyway.
Yeah.
Just because that all of these problems have been solved in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, you have the Steam Workshop that is like, I think it's just for games that are on Steam.
Right. Yeah. So it's a modding tool. It's almost like a it's not like a mod. It's like not to help make mods, but rather to facilitate the creation and distribution of mods from the community through the game.
Okay.
And it's a tool that, unless you're using Steam, there's not an easy way for a person to make a mod and then being able to upload it essentially to the game through Steam's installation software that you basically like all you have to do is hit subscribe on a mod and you've got it now.
Yeah.
And that like literally even There's even like Nexus Mod Manager, and that has a ton of
Hmm.
mods that you can get through that website. And
Hmm.
it's basically the same kind of idea. It's a software that allows you to download and then installs mods,
Yeah.
but it is already significantly more complex than even just the Steam Workshop.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's definitely like the easiest way to install mods that's ever existed.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be missing out on that. And Borderlands, I think we can all agree Borderlands with mods would
Oh,
be awesome.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I didn't really like think of it as a problem. Like my opinion was just like, oh, it's an inconvenience. I'll just have to go get it. But I was kind of thinking it over again, and if like after like whatever 6 months of being on the Epic Game Launcher, then it's going to Steam anyway. Like I'm gonna miss like launching it through Steam, not having the Epic Games. Like I can't just go and uninstall the Epic Games Launcher now that I have this game. I'm gonna
But you
have
have to
to keep.
rebuy it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that if I buy it through Epic Games Launcher, I can't just uninstall it later. I'll always need it to play that game,
Yeah.
and like that's just
And then
like
your
hard to think
progression is
about
on
it.
there,
Yeah.
and there's no cloud
Well,
saving.
isn't
So like if you
there's?
switch between your computer, if you have like a desktop and a
I mean,
laptop,
is
and
there no?
you're
No, but doesn't Gearbox have their own like shift account? Like you have your account like on
if Gearbox
Borderlands.
has its own account, then it might save
I
through that.
think
Actually, I think
because
you might be
you
correct.
your shift code like a shift account. Because I know there's progression that has transferred over from like Xbox.
You may be right on that actually, but that's because Gearbox is basically
Yeah,
doing it for
right.
themselves, but
Absolutely.
Epic doesn't do that.
Right. I mean
Yeah.
that's different, but I mean that's a
At
nice thing that I'll
least
have.
thanks to Gearbox, we may not have that problem, but
You
not
still
thanks
have
to
to
Epic.
buy the game though. Again,
Yeah.
that's the problem. So like this will definitely increase a lot of like pirating,
Yeah.
especially with Borderlands versus other like multiplayer games. That was always been a problem with the like pirating multiplayer games. Is always you can't access them. You can't really play them. But with Borderlands, because it's primarily single player and there's some co-op, like you can get by with like 6 months of playing without anybody,
Right.
and then getting you're like, all right, let's do this co-op. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
buy it on Steam, and it's better, and it's probably gonna be cheaper actually at that point.
Right.
Knowing Steam.
I was kind of thinking about this too today actually, how I feel like with other games, there's a lot of games that kind of slid under the rug now that they've been exclusives on Epic Store.
Yeah.
Like World War Z. There was like the Outlander game. There was like that I forget the other game, but it was like a open world RPG. That game was like kind of swept under the rug. There's a lot of games that are being released on it that are exclusives that most people aren't playing because they're just not on Steam, and you
Yeah.
don't really know about them because the streamers aren't playing them as well because they're not on Steam.
Yeah.
So I think with Borderlands 3 is going to be a bit more of an exception to that though, because it's so huge and everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
And the marketing for it has been phenomenal up to this point.
And the
Save
hype-
Randy
Right,
Pitchford.
yeah, I mean the hype train has just gotten so big, even in the, like at this point, with not even knowing we only know 50% of the playable characters. Like
I just don't think anybody's going to wait the 6 months.
no, and it's
It's
crazy.
either going to be pirating or they're just going to give it and buy it on the Epic Launcher.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing, right? Like maybe this is the wake up call. This is the big game that's gonna be on the Epic Games Launcher that gives Steam that the whole like, okay, we need to change like what we're doing, and then Epic Games might be able to see, oh, we can keep the like this was successful, we can do this again, and maybe that'll get to their heads, and maybe they don't improve their like UI and everything, but or maybe that they realize it's their big league now, maybe they should change it.
I just think it's ridiculous for the company to be going for exclusives when they're so far behind in software and features. It's like you guys could have just kept working on the Epic Launcher for the next 6 months. You've got so much Fortnite money. Like holy shit, just increase the size of the team. It doesn't even have to be like hiring people. You can do contract work for like 6 months to a year. Contract employees that are only there until they're done updating the launcher, and to the point where it's at least more competitive with Steam, or even if it was just on par with like any of the other launchers, like the Uplay launcher, like the Blizzard launcher, like the
Even EA
Origins.
Origin, yeah, Origin launcher.
Like, it's not even close to any of them. So they have so much room to improve on that, and they need to. And if they're going to lean on exclusives, then I think that it's going to sort of collapse on them. And then pirating is just going to get too rampant
Yeah.
the more exclusives. And if Steam starts to like get their own exclusives to try to compete with Epic getting exclusives, like I think that the whole industry is going to get significantly worse.
Yeah, I hope it's a change for the good, so that we can get better everything on each like side of this, as far as like better things for better prices for developers on Steam, better UI in the Epic Game Launcher, better everything. It would be
Hmm.
That's just the
I
best
think the
outcome there.
people have spoken though to an extent on how much they don't like the Epic launcher. And I think Epic knows that there's no way that it can't just sit idly by and just rely on exclusives.
Totally.
But then again, companies usually make decisions based on money more
Yeah.
than public opinion and what people say. So if Borderlands does phenomenally, regardless of being on the Epic launcher, that may actually bode negatively for the
Yeah.
future of the
True.
Epic launcher.
True.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much everything that has been out there
Yeah.
on
Borderlands
Borderlands.
3.
I'm
And
sure there's like some small stuff that we missed,
I
but
mean, there's probably new stuff that people are figuring out.
like right now as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, there'll probably also be, between now and when we actually release the
Yeah,
video, there'll be
when
more
yeah,
information. So don't hold us against it, guys.
yeah, if
Okay,
there's an
we're
update,
trying our best.
or like congratulate us if we got something right that we didn't know anything about, like the Beastmaster or
Yeah.
something like that, or Maz.
But let us know what you guys think about Borderlands 3. Like whether or not you like any of these new features. If there's features that you actually think made the game worse.
Hmm.
How you guys think about the new Echo Cast, because I think that's
Yeah,
going to be like pseudo controversial, especially since it's the first time any game's ever done that.
right. I think streamers will like it up front, but yeah,
Then there's also obviously, like, do you think this game's actually going to not step into the microtransaction zone? It seems like Randy Pitchford's trying really hard to sell that one
yeah,
though, so
and
I think they may stick to it.
yeah, yeah, it looks like the way how passionate he is, he'll try to keep it out of that realm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then even like the Epic Games launcher, like, are you going to get this game
Yeah,
on the launcher, or are you going to pirate it? Or are you one of I think the very few people that are going to try to hold out for that 6 months? I know I'm not going to be able to personally, and I
no,
don't want to pirate the game either, so I'm going to probably get on the Epic launcher, but
yeah,
I'm not going to be happy about it.
no, not at all.
Um, but yeah,
Okay.
tell us
Yeah.
what you guys think.
Yeah.
Tell us what you guys are going to miss, especially the most about it not being on Steam.
Yeah. So, I think that wraps it up. As always, thank you for listening,
Liking
commenting.
and subscribing.
You can check us out on Instagram at Unstoppable Force Podcast and Twitter at UForcePod. We'll see you next week.
And
until then,
then,
stay unstoppable.